Hello guys, and welcome to another tutorial on Divinity Original Sin. Today we're going to cover two classes, Wizard and Witches. This is going to be again my tutorial guide on all the different classes and how I would roll a beginning class. This will not involve, of course, Leech or Lone Wolf. So please note that if you want to put in a Lone Wolf character, there will be a separate video available for that. If you're interested in other classes, please address your issue to the playlist or into the caption there, which will lead you to the playlist in the video itself at the beginning of the video. So for now, let's begin. We'll begin with something easy. We'll begin with the Wizard. Again, you would go to Customize. Here you would pick whatever you want. This has no preference, male to or female, loyalty, random, whatever. I go usually with loyalty based on my previous things. Now you would go to Customize, and then you would see we got Willpower, we got Geomancy and Pyro, we got Charisma, and we got Lore Master. Please note that you should technically only have one character with a high enough lore master. Having more than one is not needed. So if this would have been your second character that would already have one in the lore master, you would take it out and of course dump it into bodybuilding. Again, bodybuilding will prevent your character from burning, being knocked down, crippled, bleeding, blinded, weak, disease, infected, and drunk. Well, honestly, I never had the problem with the last one. Again, you would only put this point into body if this is your second character. If you're making a duo that would have a lore master skill. Aside from that, please leave it there if this is your first character. Other stats are actually perfect. Geomancer goes perfectly with pyrokinetic, but again, this is a personal preference. You would not really be able to combine, for example, Hydra and Pyro. I'm sure you can, but it's not going to be as effective as, for example, Geomancer, Pyro, or Witch and Hydro. It's all depends on what kind of character you wanting to play. Now here again, you would only need one character with high level of perception in your entire group. Therefore, if you would like, you could take 1 point out of perception. Again, this is my personal preference. I only have one character with high levels of perception to find stuff for me. And then I would dump 1 point into intelligence or speed. Honestly, constitution, because you're going to be standing back with your wizard, is not very needed. Now, let's address the second issue with spells. Please note that these stats and these right here and the preferences are again my personal opinion and nothing more. You would not be shouldn't be putting points into blacksmithing or crafting, because if you're not playing with a lone wolf, Joan will give you all the crafting beginning stats that you would need once you find him in a tavern. If you can't find Joan, please address one of my guide videos in my playlist. Now, let's continue to the spells. Right here we have Midnight Oil and Flare and Magical Poison Dart. What Midnight Oil does, it would slow down the target in that area and would also put an oil spill there that if you would use Flare on that area, it would ignite and damage the target. Even though these spells are really amazing again for beginning, I have decided to alter the beginning gameplay. First of all, you would go to go to Midnight Oil and would first select if you would go to Magical Poison Dart and would select Summon Spider. Please note that even though in the latest patch the summon pets are now less favorable, as the patch describes, to the mobs, they are still very good tanks. They could be easily summoned for very few points. For example, this one can be summoned for 6 action points, and of course there are abilities and skills that could reduce that further on. They're very good tank, they do very good damage, and it allows you to stand back and do your wizard nukes. Now on the Flare, Burning Touch is kinda useless. Everything else here would be quite insignificant for you to get as personally. Now you would just basically would rock Midnight Oil and Flare with a Summon Spider. This team would also work amazing if you would end up having two casters that both can summon spiders, allowing you to create a four-man team early on in the beginning of the game. Or if you recruit already two more people, you will be able to have basically six between two of your pets and four of the characters that you can control. Honestly, here I would stay with the same stats, except for the fact that I would kind of get rid of Far Out Man early on in the game. And if you would go with the fighter character or the knight character that I have my build early in the in the beginning, if you would check my video for the knight and the fighter build, you would know that if you would this would be your second character connecting to that knight or fighter, you would also go with the bully ability, which is actually quite amazing for very early on in the game. Please know that Pet Pal is also quite significant, but it's not that amazing. Scientist you would not really need because Joanne would already have it. Stench is kind of nice towards end of the game where you could just, stand back and do your thing. Leech no longer it got nerfed several patches ago and has been being nerfed throughout patches, and unfortunately is now not that viable as it used to. You might not even consider getting it. The Far Out Man is amazing ability, but again, this is personal opinion. It's later on, early on in the game. It has very little significant role because things are quite easy to deal with. But you could leave it if you have not rolled with the fighter and the knight build that I have created in a previous video. Now, let's move on to our witch. Again, you would go loyal or whatever you want, and you would go with customize. Now, here you would see that you have geomancy and witchcraft. Personally, these two abilities, they really like to complement themselves. If you kind of take out the witchcraft ability from her, she's just a witch by name and not actually witch by class. If you turn into basically, I don't know, give her pyromancy, she is no different than your typical fire mage. But in this case, we're gonna discuss witchcraft. As you can see, the witches already start with Summon Spider. They start with Oath of Desecration, and they start with bloodletting and perception. Again, if this is your second or first character, I would recommend getting perception removed out of here, and also the lore master. Again, depending on if this is your first or second character. If this is your first, please leave these two intact and do not touch them. If this is your second character, you could easily remove lore master and perception here. I know this helps the crit, but trust me, it's not significant enough at early levels, and you could dump that point into bodybuilding to prevent yourself from being knocked down and affected by longer range spells. I would found this that early on in the beginning you do tend to resist a lot more, and your game breezes through easily when they can't knock you down, stun you, or do other messed up range attacks on you. Well, the spells here with the witch, I can't really argue. It's really one of the better builds that you can go with. The only one that I would really change is under the wizard. I would also leave the I would also leave the stats as they are, and I would put one into intelligence or maybe one into speed. Constitution is not really important considering the fact you're going to be standing back, and early on in the game you could be using your pets to tank, because early on in the game your pets actually have a lot of HP compared to a regular character, and they continuously progressively level with you. So once your character is level 2, 3, 4, your pet will continue leveling with you and providing you with great defense. As you update through the geomancy, as you become a greater geomancer, Earth Pet is one of the better pets in the game, and I would also recommend picking up a wolf and several other pets as a witch, witches have actually quite amazing pets and very reliable that do direct physical damage, including the skeletons and the wolf, as I mentioned earlier. And after this will literally conclude our guide on witches and wizards. Again, guys, if you have any suggestions or any concerns or any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments below. Of course, I could have forgotten and missed something. This game is too amazing to basically cover everything once possible. These are my personal opinions. These are my personal builds. This is what I would have done. You don't have to take my advice, but You could also propose to me your other suggestions, and I will definitely could review them and perhaps even make another tutorial guide. So guys, please click like, please click subscribe, please leave me your comments. Thank you guys for watching, and please feel free to check out other guides on other classes that I'm making. Thank you and have a good night.